Hi guys, welcome to the channel. This is Yvonne from GingerChickRehab. I am so glad that you popped on to check out what I am up to. So in today's video, yep, I'm making over a bread box. Just a simple, seems simple bread box. For $5.29 is this. It is a bread box. So I haven't done any bread boxes in a while. This style sells really well. I probably should get some done, so I thought, you know what, I'll show this in the haul because I just picked it up. I don't really personally care for this handle, so it is screwed in, so I can take that off. And I have a new idea for it, was a transfer. So we will see. I have a little barn transfer that I'd like to put on here, so we'll see if I can get it painted up. And yes, stay tuned for that. So here it is, and as I'm sharing it with you, all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, that was not there earlier. Where did that hole come from? How did I not notice that? Well, the nice thing is that I usually like to take these bread boxes apart because it really is the easiest to get to all the pieces and parts and paint them properly. But before hammering it apart, I need to remove the back very gingerly because I don't want to have to cut a replacement piece, and this is usually just like a very thin pressed board type. So I'm going to go ahead and try to gingerly remove that. Well, at least I didn't destroy that back, but now I gotta go back in and remove the staples before hammering the sides. So yes, they're just held in with some nails that just easily with a rubber mallet hammer apart. So now that I have the other nails taken care of, I'm going to go ahead and remove the handle. So it looks like the backing has just done its time. It looks like it's a type of paper that has just dried out. So over time it's just starting to disintegrate. So I'm going to try to remove most of it that I can. I was finding it very difficult to just do one at a time trying to scrape that off, so I went ahead and taped it all together. I decided I'm probably going to use the Orbital sander on it, but at first I'm going to fill in these holes. And this is just Durham water putty that mixed with paint, and at the time I was working on another project, so I already had it mixed up. But then after that dried, I'm going to go ahead with that Orbital sander and try to see if I can get a little bit more of that paper off. So this is actually construction grade paper, and we use this a lot not only to cover up our tables here in the workshop, but also when I'm doing backings to windows, any kind of wall decor. So I just needed to cut it down to size. I'm just going to be using some Tite Bond Quick and Tight to adhere it to the back. So I'm just going to run beads on it. I'm not worried about gluing the slats together. I'm just going to put a thin layer on. And then after I get that all spread out, get the paper put on, I'm going to take a wet rag and then go ahead and wet that back of the paper so it's blending in and making it a little bit more pliable and not hard paper. And then I'm going to remove that tape on the back side or the front side that I put it on, and then sand off where I need to, where I filled in those holes, and then sit it on its side in a round position so that the glue can dry. Now that I have that drying and all glued up, and hopefully it'll work once I reattach everything, I'm going to go ahead and sand all the rest of the pieces, getting that top coat off, scuff sanding this. Now especially the bottom is kind of all marred up, so this is that bottom piece. And I know that this is going to be a little bit on the needy side. It's that type of wood that's going to bleed through. So first of all, we're going to go ahead and get all these pieces scuff sanded. Now that I've got them all scuff sanded, it's time to get them all washed up. So I just have some Kreg Cutter, the deglosser one, in a bucket of water, and I'm just making sure that I wipe these all nice and clean. And then setting them off to the side to let them completely dry. But before moving on to paint them, since I've scuff sanded them, I got that top coat off there, all nice and dry. And then for the back of the rolling part, I want to even out the porosity of that being paper. So this is going to definitely help it not disintegrate as fast as it probably did the first time. So what I'm doing here is I've got shellac, and shellac is going to even out that porosity of the paper, like I said, but then it's also going to prevent any bleed through happening from this oak type of wood. A lot of times I want to paint this white, and if I just went on to paint this white, as my white paint was drying, it would pick up the stain from there and what we call bleed through, start turning my white paint yellow. So 2 coats of shellac on both sides. So the one thing about having to prep your piece with shellac, it acts like a wonderful primer, and it just grabs a hold of that paint. So I only had to spray these once on each side to get them to completely cover. So now I'm going back in and just taking some 300 grit sandpaper. That TrueCoat 360 handheld sprayer just does such a nice fine mist that there's hardly any texture at all, but just on the safe side, I like to make sure that everything is nice and smooth before putting it back together. So now I'm just picking out a handle from our stash, and it actually looks like the holes on this handle match up to the handle that I took off, but oh well, I filled them in anyway. So now I'm going to go ahead and double check that the screws, luckily the screws, because just because you thrift the hardware doesn't mean that they usually come with screws. So it looks like those screws will work. You see, as I'm putting it back together, the easiest is to get the rolling part back into the slats and then get that bottom piece on, making sure that it's lined up with the corners, and then I'm just going to go ahead and brad nail it into place. Now before replacing that back, I need to drill the holes now into the front for the hardware. I'm just lining up the Kreg hardware tool. That it's a wonderful investment on this little thing. It helps you line up where your holes are. It helps you center it in the piece of wood or on the cabinet door or the piece of furniture they're using. So I'm just matching up where I need to drill holes. Oh, so here is the transfer I am using. Yes, this is a Belle transfer. I got it off of Amazon. There's just something about barns. So this actually has a whole bunch of farmhouse. This is definitely a farmhouse transfer, but I'm hoping that this barn fits on. So I tested it out before getting everything back together in case I was going to change my mind, but I think it's just going to fit. And the nice thing about this transfer is there's a lot of images on there that you can use for other projects. So I need to cut this as close to the barn as I can without really cutting off too much of the barn until I see what I can work with. There's a lot of space on the bottom. I know that it's going to be too long, and it's almost just a hair bit too wide, but I'm hoping to tuck it under just a little bit, but I'm going to get it cut out first. Oh, and I don't know. I do not know why they can't make an entire image without having to cut it down the middle. But oh, it is what it is, and you have to work with what you are given, and the barn is beautiful, so I need to cut that as close to that red as I can get it, hopefully not cutting into it. Now I'm going to play with it a little bit. I'm going to see how much I need to cut off. That top protective sheet is really hard to bend, as you say, and I wasn't sure if I was going to accidentally touch the transfer, so I taped off the sides, and I didn't end up needing to have done that, but just as a precaution, because once you've stuck it on there, that transfer wants to be on there. So playing with it, making sure where it's going to fit and how much you need to cut off to make it more workable is definitely key before moving off that protective coating. Now that I have it cut down, that I know it's going to fit, I'm going to go ahead and release that back, pull off that back, then I'm going to reapply the back so it's loose so that I can just get the little tip of that barn underneath there and start working off my transfer. Now it's time to rub a dub-dub. So to get it attached at first, I just went down and rubbed the whole thing, and then I really rubbed on where the slats were. That way I know that they're not going to lift up on me. And then, yep, you just start pulling that protective covering as you're gingerly making sure that it's still attached. And I know I'm going to have to go back in and cut between those slats, but right now I just need to get that whole image transferred on. So I got that first piece applied, and that's when I'm always like, oh man, why didn't this come in one full piece? So I found it the easiest to cut the slats with a scissor. That way that underneath side is super sticky, so a X-Acto knife would pull it, and you don't want to pull it. I tried to push it in with my fingers, and then I ended up pulling it, so just going slow with scissors. So now I have to try to match up the barn. It's not terribly hard, but I do find that the vinyl stretches just a wee bit, so somewhere on the image it tends to be off just a little bit, so you just have to decide which area it will. I've never had them completely matched, to be honest with you, when they come in two pieces like this, but you just try your best and just distress those areas a little bit with some sandpaper if they don't completely match. So never really stress out. It's just a DIY, a craft project with a beautiful barn. So I decided I really want to make sure that my roof line matches up, and then it kind of did get off, like if I matched it up where the barn door was, then you could really see the roof. So then I decided, make sure the roof would be your main focus. But yeah, it was just like an 1/8 of an inch off when I was applying it. So you just have to decide where you want your imperfection to be. to say it took me about 30 minutes to apply that transfer, yeah, even on a little bread box, but then I had to cut the slats, and then I had to line up everything and make sure that it was going underneath. So this is where I said now that I'm just going to kind of blend it. The transfer did overlap just a slight bit. It pulled at the bottom when I was lifting it up, but that's okay. Just take a little bit of sandpaper and distress those edges to make it look like it had been worn. And on the one little edge, I ended up getting that piece to go underneath so you don't see that white. I got really underneath the one edge a little bit better, but then I just went back with that extra piece I had cut off to complete that barn. Do I think it's worth it? Oh my gosh, look at how beautiful this looks. Oh my gosh, it is a showstopper for sure. So now I'm going back in with some sandpaper, some 220 sandpaper, and I'm distressing all my edges. I wasn't sure at first. I wanted to see how my barn turned out, but since I distressed the transfer, I'm going to go ahead and distress the bread box. Yep, I wanted to make sure that before spraying some polycrylic to seal this transfer in and the entire bread box to seal and protect it, that I didn't have any sanding dust. So yes, I'm sealing this in. You need to seal your transfers in with something. You could use wax, but I am choosing to use a polycrylic top coat in a matte finish. I left her garage sale, I decided I needed to go to Hobby Lobby to get some more Rub and Buff. And there wasn't anything in their sale items. I was way too late. I haven't been there in a while, so. But I did run into that town's Aldi's because my Aldi's doesn't have these. Have y'all got these yet? You reseller crafters? Now they had them last year and I don't do anything to them. I take them out of package. The big ones I sell for $5, the little ones I sell for $4. They're $5.99 for the set. So this is a new color this year that I've seen. This is the same color they had last year. And I really try to go through them and look for the different types of wood all together. I think that helps them sell a little, and people just like them as is. You could put little feet on them, but a lot of people don't go to Aldi's or look at stuff like this, so perfect. So yep, I was happy to run across that. So if you have an Aldi's near you, or yeah, stop in and see if they have it. They do have the oval and rounds, but I do find that the square ones sell better because I think I still have some of the oval and rounds, one package left that I have in my booth right now, and it, like I said, it's been a year. So yeah, they definitely like the square ones a little bit better in my area. So even though I didn't share this in my previous haul, I saw a TikTok of this cute, oh my gosh, super cute way to make these over. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a few of these because I did pick up quite a few. So all I did was went to my Cricut and I was just looking for a mosaic to put on there. And then I saw that mushroom, and I know that mushrooms are really in right now. So yep, all I did was go to my Cricut, I typed in mosaic tiles, and this is what it brought me up. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out something that I didn't have to weed, that wasn't too needy. But then I saw that mushroom. Now that I picked out the two mosaic tiles that I like, I'm just going to go ahead and size them up. I can go back and grab that. But right now I know that this will stay square for the smaller one, but I want to know if it's going to, when I elongate it, if it's going to make it wonky, because sometimes it does. So I'm just making it to the size that I need, and I think it's a 3x3 for the smaller one, and then for the larger one, all I'm going to do is just duplicate this image. And then I think it was a 3 by like 4 1/4 or 4 1/2 for the long. So as long as it didn't make it wonky, I could use that for the bigger one too. And I did do just some plain mosaic tiles. I got them all cut out of the Cricut. Yep, I weeded one wrong. Oh, don't you hate when you do that? So I had to recut out another one. So for the mosaic tiles, as you see, it doesn't have an outer edge. So all I'm going to do is cut close to the image so I have something to center and transfer it onto these little cutting boards. Now that I have my vinyl all transferred onto my cute little cutting boards, I'm just going to be using a stencil brush, a dry technique. I don't want to push a lot of paint underneath that vinyl, even though I rubbed, making sure that it was on. It's better to do multiple layers than get paint underneath your stencil. So I'm just using that Apple Barrel multi-use white paint. And since it's white and it's a little bit of a dry board, it's going to go ahead and soak it in. But I just chose white for the mushrooms, and then I'm going to switch over to the Apple Barrel black for the mosaic tile ones. One coat of black, 3 coats of white. They're completely dry now. Now I'm not going to remove the stencil or the tape until I seal this, and I put a little extra tape over the handle because I want to seal my paint in with some polycrylic. Okay, so now I went to my stash and I wanted to see what kind of littles feet I had for these little cutting boards. So I think some of these are Dollar Tree. I think some of are pieces and parts that people have given me, or just random pieces that have been in things that I thrifted. But you know, us crafters, we don't get rid of anything. So I think the bigger ones look good for the little bit larger cutting boards, and then these little tiny ones for the smaller ones. I didn't have enough of the smaller square ones, so I'm going to go ahead and use those a little bit more detail. I think they are super cute. So I'm just going to be using some Titebond Quick and Thick to glue these on, and just eyeballing as best as I can because these are little bitty pieces. And then even though I didn't get this on film after they had dried, I went ahead and put a coat of polycrylic on the bottom to protect that raw wood of those feet. Okay, so what did you think of today's little tiny furniture makeover? Okay, so it was a bread box, but it was a very cool bread box. I love those roll tops. Those are one of my best sellers, and it's nice to change them up. So yep, I did have to take it apart to fix it, but I hope I shared the process enough that you're not intimidated by that. Getting it back together after you painted it, fixing it all up, putting that beautiful transfer on there. That was a perfect fit. I absolutely love that red barn. I've been saving it for the right size, and the right size to me was a bread box. So I was happy when I came across that bread box to put it on. Now the only thing I do wish is that they would not cut in the middle of a transfer. I did achieve it. I got it matched up to the best of my ability. Yep, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Yes, it kind of has that 3D effect on there with the slats and having to cut it up. But yep, so let me know down in the comments, did you think I was off my rocker trying to put a transfer on a rolling around area, or have I inspired you to look at secondhand finds in a new way? So thanks again for watching today's video, guys, and as always, if you are part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. Your kind compliments, your comments, your sharing your stories, I read them all. I try to comment back to as many as I can get to, so thank you for that. And if you're new and you're checking out our channel for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we've uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!